Welcome to part 3 of this 7-part series on becoming superhuman. My name is Ben Greenfield, and I'm the head coach of the Superhuman Coach Network, where we teach trainers and coaches from around the globe how to help you achieve your goals as quickly, safely, and efficiently as possible. In this 7-part series, you're learning all sorts of tricks about performance, fat loss, and nutrition. And today, I'm going to teach you a little bit about recovery, and specifically overtraining, because it really is a big issue in people like you who want to achieve lofty goals and have set your goals rather high compared to the rest of the population. Well, there are many reasons that those type of goals, when combined with some of these factors, can lead to overtraining or beating the body up so much that it has a very hard time bouncing back from a hormonal standpoint, from a muscular standpoint, from an immune system standpoint, and just from an overall health standpoint. So some of the ways that you feel when you're overtrained is demotivated to actually go out and train. Sometimes you can't sleep well. You're excessively sore. Workouts aren't as fun. Maybe you feel kind of blah. Well, some of the reasons that you actually get overtrained include what you see listed here: an inflammatory diet, meaning that you're eating higher amounts of sugar and especially even processed foods. And yes, that can include the type of bars and smoothies that you might get, say, at your health club or your gym. A lot of those type of foods have processed ingredients in them that can lead to a net inflammatory state. There are entire books out there about anti-inflammatory diets, and one of the things that we teach our coaches here at the Superhuman Coach Network is how to actually recognize inflammatory compounds in the diet. You can do it too. Two of the biggest ones are sugar and processed foods. Gut dysbiosis. I know dysbiosis isn't an extremely common word, but all that means is that it's easier to get overtrained when you don't have enough good gut bacteria. More of your body is exposed to the environment in your gut than even your skin. That's how big the surface area of your gut is. If you don't have a healthy gut, then your immune system can suffer, your digestion and absorption can suffer, and if you're not getting enough nutrients and minerals and vitamins in, you can get overtrained. When you have a low intake of whole food, anti-inflammatories, and antioxidants, it can also be an issue. And I say whole food because high doses of antioxidants like synthetic vitamin C and synthetic vitamin E capsules that are quite commonly prescribed or recommended as potent antioxidants, those can actually do things like increase your risk of stroke. But while I don't recommend those, whole food anti-inflammatory or whole food antioxidants, such as you would get from eating a pomegranate or having a big bed of spinach. These type of whole foods in your diet are incredibly important to keep you from getting overtrained and to give your body what it needs to actually fight free radicals. Interestingly, one of the things that's highly anti-inflammatory, a lot of people don't even realize, is saturated fat, such as you might get from something like coconut oil. Another issue can be poor omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. And what this means is that omega-3 fatty acids, such as you might find in fish, like salmon, or walnuts, or pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, things of that nature, omega-3s have very, very good anti-inflammatory action. When you exercise, you produce inflammation, and good anti-inflammatory compounds in your diet help you to fight that inflammation. Fats that are higher in omega-6s, like vegetable oils, canola oil, most of the oils they use at restaurants these days, including things like peanut butter or even just trail mix that's been heated or roasted. All of these things tend to be higher in omega-6s, and omega-6s are necessary in certain amounts in your body, but most people have too many omega-6s and not enough omega-3s, and that can lead to overtraining. As you can probably imagine, low quality sleep, and we devote literally hours of training to our superhuman coaches on how to optimize your body for sleep, but low quality sleep is a huge cause of overtraining, and one of the things that I'll recommend to people who are beating up their bodies training over and over again is to train less and sleep more. Sounds counterintuitive, but it actually works. Poor blood and lymph circulation from staying sedentary. Okay, not a lot of high achievers have this problem of sitting around so much that they get sick. But look at it this way. If you are traveling and you're sitting on an airplane for long periods of time, you can literally put your body into a state of suppressed immune system function and poor lymph flow by just not getting up while you're sitting on the airplane, which is so easy to do, I know. You get into your sedentary mode while you're there in the seat, maybe in the middle of the aisle, or you're laid out in first class watching your movie, and it just gets easy to sit there for hours. And you need to make sure that you get up and around, and that helps to keep you from getting overtrained. Even on my rest days, my easy recovery days, and the recovery days of the people that we train within the Super Superhuman Coach Network, we're still including what are called Zone 1 recovery workouts, easy swims or walks with the kids or the family, things of that nature. Few other issues, inadequate recovery methods, and we devote literally hours to teaching the use of everything from cold lasers to electrostimulation to cold thermogenesis to compression to all the little methods and tools out there that you can use to recover faster. And a lot of times you just aren't adequately using some of those tools that are easily at our disposals in this day and age. Inadequate recovery time means that you're either stacking workouts too closely to one another on a day-to-day basis, or you're not giving yourself long enough to bounce back from, say, a big weekend run. You can't do something like a big weekend run and turn around and do something like a hard weightlifting session the next day. And stacking your workouts properly throughout the week is super important to keep you bouncing back over and over again. Finally, something as simple as fighting with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or your wife or your kids, that can literally lead to a state of overtraining. It sets you up to be in this high cortisol fight and flight mode, and it's another issue that tends to be quite common in people who get overtrained. So there actually are two types of overtraining, and it's important to be able to understand what they actually are. Usually what you're going to read about in typical magazines and books is something called sympathetic nervous system overtraining. And what that is, this would be the typical person who's going to the gym, exercising really hard. Maybe they got 100 under the collar. They want to lose a bunch of fat. Maybe they joined a CrossFit gym or something like that, and they're doing a bunch of CrossFit workouts, or they're doing this hard workout they got out of a magazine or out of a book. And the combination of training over and over again, day after day, and doing it at a high intensity is what leads to overtraining of what's called your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, run from a lion nervous system. So you get high cortisol, and you get high insulin levels because insulin is released so that you mobilize, or not mobilize, but you store a lot of these sugars away so that you can use them during these times of stress. You get low testosterone. You also get low DHEA. So if you were to actually go in for a blood test when you're feeling really blah and you were to see some of these combinations, high cortisol, high insulin, low testosterone, low DHEA, pretty good sign your sympathetic nervous system is overtrained if you wanted to actually get it tested. You tend to get fluid retention and swelling, and that's why a lot of times you'll notice that if you start into a really hard training program, you don't lose weight as quickly as you want to, and sometimes you're even swollen. And this is literally stress-related weight gain. It's fluid retention, and it's related to this high cortisol. And the high cortisol causes you to retain sodium, and that causes you to retain fluid, so you don't lose weight. Even if you're burning fat sometimes, the scale doesn't budge. Now, as I mentioned, this is overstimulation of your fight and flight nervous system. And one of the other things that you'll notice, there's a special type of variable that we teach our coaches within the Superhuman Coach Network to track. It's called heart rate variability, or HRV. You'll find that your HRV tends to jump all over the place from day to day. This is something that you can test. Some heart rate monitors allow you to test your HRV now. There's one tool that I personally use called a heart math EM Wave is what it's called, and it's literally, it's about $100 device, and I attach a little cable to my earlobe. It tests my heart rate, tells me my heart rate variability. Well, if this jumps all over the place from day to day, it's a pretty good sign that your sympathetic nervous system is overtrained. The nice part is just a few easy days can just pull you out of sympathetic nervous system overtraining. So it's not as serious as the second type, which is parasympathetic nervous training, which is when you've trained your sympathetic nervous system and overtrained your sympathetic nervous system to the point where it gives out. And then your parasympathetic nervous system, or your rest and digest, kind of your aerobic endurance training type of nervous system, has to take over. It gets overworked, and then you've got a serious case because you've pretty much overtrained every energy system that you have on board. This is typically what you see with chronic overtraining. You see this a lot in people who are training with high volume, like Ironman triathletes and marathoners, and even some folks who are maybe not doing endurance training, but just doing 2-a-day weight training sessions, bodybuilders, very intense and overtrained CrossFitters, people of that nature. You see this a lot in MMA individuals as well, who've been training for long periods of time. This is associated with what's called adrenal exhaustion. You'll hear this term thrown around, adrenal exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, and basically what it is overtraining of your parasympathetic nervous system. If you're to go in and get tested, you're going to find that cortisol levels aren't high anymore. You get to the point where you force your body to churn out a ton of cortisol, you eventually fatigue it, and then if you test your cortisol, it's low. Insulin is also low. Like sympathetic nervous system training, you're going to have low testosterone and low DHEA, but if it's parasympathetic nervous system overtraining, you also get low cortisol and low insulin levels. You tend to, because those cortisol levels drop, no longer have the fluid retention and swelling, so you'll see a plummet in weight, but it's a bad plummet in weight. It's like, you start to look all dried up and skeleton-like once you get into this parasympathetic overtrained state. It's not a good place to be in, and sometimes it can take 6 to 12 months or more to bounce back from this state once you've gotten yourself into it. It's, as I mentioned, overstimulation, not of your fight or flight syndrome, but more of your rest and digest. So your body is whether you're working out or whether you're resting, just pretty much putzed out when you're parasympathetically overtrained. You'll also notice if heart rate variability, which I just mentioned earlier, that's that HRV number, the little device that you can use to track your heart rate or your heart rate variability, which is the length of time in between heartbeats. It just tends to be consistently low, the variability between your heart beats. Whereas with sympathetic nervous system training, it could be high one day, low one day, medium one day, all over the place. Once you get to parasympathetic nervous system overtraining, it just gets low all the time. So if you're overtrained with volume, which tends to be more of the parasympathetic nervous system overtraining, here's an easy way to recognize it. I love this simple method. You fall asleep while you're driving, or you take naps while you're driving. Yeah, you're driving home from work, driving to work, driving around during the day, you just get tired, sleepy. If you're overtrained with intensity, or if your sympathetic nervous system is overtrained, you can't sleep at night. A lot of times that's because of the high cortisol levels, but that's kind of an easy way to identify. It's not bulletproof, but it's a good way to kind of sort of put your pulse on what kind of overtraining that you're dealing with, and an easy way for you to just kind of sort of self-diagnose, even though it's better to hook up with a coach within our network who can help walk you through this thing, or even hook up with a laboratory. And we've got several laboratories that we work with who can test you and figure out what your cortisol, your DHEA, your insulin, your testosterone levels are at. But that's basically overtraining in a nutshell in terms of how it happens and how to identify it. Now, if you want more information, if you want to work with a coach who can set you up with a SMART program that doesn't leave you overtrained, or if you're overtrained, you need to work with a coach to kind of help get you out of it and make sure that doesn't happen again. We put our coaches, every coach within the Superhuman Coach Network, through a series of modules and very difficult exams that leaves them highly equipped and qualified to help you through designing a program, designing a plan, and basically making a strategy for you that's going to help you to reach your goals safely and effectively and as quickly as possible without overtraining, which is not pleasant. Trust me, I've been there and I've had to do a lot of research in terms of how to dig yourself out of an overtraining hole. And it's one of the things that we really focus on within the network. So if you want to hook up with a Superhuman Coach, just go to superhumancoach.com and look for that image right there, the click here to request a coach image. And if that's a little bit much for you, just hit reply to the email that you received the link to this particular video in and ask your question there. Just ask us to hook you up with a coach, whether in your area or online, or both, and we'll find someone to work with you right away. So until next time, I'm Ben Greenfield from superhumancoach.com, signing out. Have a great day.